Why are we the only human species left? And who are the next ones? AI? Probably. Most likely. Let's check this out.
For most of human history, we were not alone. If you could travel back 50,000 years, you'd find a planet where several different kinds of humans existed at the same time. Some looked
Yeah.
a lot like us. Others were built completely differently, shorter, heavier, shaped by climates and landscapes that would break a modern person. One species lived
Oh,
on
we don't need climates to break us. We just need today's economy. It's already breaking
a
us.
remote island
You
and
know?
evolved to be barely 3 feet tall. Another is so mysterious that
Yep.
nearly everything we know about them comes from a single finger bone. And then there was us, Homo sapiens. Today, we are the only human species left. Not because we were the
Why?
strongest, or the smartest, or the ones who'd been here longest.
Like, did we kill off everybody? Or what
The
happened? I
ones who
never
are
knew
still
this.
here. Which raises a question that doesn't have a clean answer. What happened to everyone else? What
Yeah.
actually happened was slower and messier. To understand how that played out, you have to start with the species that lasted the longest, which is Homo erectus. Homo
Really?
erectus showed up around 2 million years ago. And to put that number in perspective, everything modern humans have ever accomplished, every city we've built, every war we've fought, every
Homo
language
erectus existed longer than we have had. Like, Homo sapiens have existed for like 200,000.
we've spoken, all of it fits inside the last few thousand years. Homo
Okay.
erectus was on this planet for a stretch of time so long that our entire history looks like a footnote next to theirs. Their bodies were the
Yeah.
first to look recognizably human. They have long legs, shorter arms, a frame designed for walking and running over open ground. They
So
were
they
almost
probably weren't fully evolved into humans. They were kind of like somewhere in the middle of, monkeys and humans.
certainly the first human species to leave Africa and spread into other parts of the world, which
Uh-huh.
means they figured out how to survive in environments they'd never evolved for. Their brains
Yeah.
were smaller than ours, but significantly larger than anything that came before them, and they developed stone tools that barely changed over hundreds of thousands of years. That sounds like a lack of imagination, but it's actually the opposite. What they made worked so well that there was no pressure to
Wait, this is
improve
the
on it,
Stone
but by
Age?
their final
Like,
chapter,
most
the
of our history is the Stone Age, right?
world had left them behind. Their last populations ended up on the island of Java in Indonesia, cut off from the mainland, with no way to reach other groups and no new territory to move into. The forests they'd always hunted in started shrinking. The animals they depended on became harder to find. And without enough people or enough space to recover, a species that had survived for close to 2 million years slowly ran out of options. Their last fossils date to around 110,000 years ago. After outlasting everything the planet had thrown at them, Homo erectus was gone. Let's talk about the Neanderthals, probably the most misunderstood species.
I don't know. I don't think that's an answer. I'm sorry. They existed for that long. Nothing really major happened in the world. Like, the food they were eating just disappeared. Nah, bros. I'm sorry. There has to be some other answer. There's no way that's how they just ended. Also, I've also heard of the Denisovans that used to live in I think it was Papua New Guinea. I'm not sure. Maybe, probably, like tiny humans they would eat less. So evolutionary, they were just they just became smaller. Plus, they lived in an island, which enabled them to have smaller bodies because only smaller people that could eat less survived. Evolution.
in human history.
I've also heard that tribes in Papua New Guinea have more Denisovan DNA. I don't know if it was Denisovans or something else, but I heard that they have more Denisovan DNA than, what we have, which is Homo sapiens and like 30, 20 something percent Neanderthal, maybe less, like 5% Neanderthal. I don't know. I don't know the
For decades,
numbers.
they were written off as dim, brutish cavemen. That image was always wrong. And the more we learn about them, the more wrong it becomes. Neanderthals were built for survival in ways that are hard to overstate. Their bodies were compact and powerful, wide chests, thick bones, strong arms. Their faces had heavy brow ridges and large noses that warmed cold air before it reached their lungs.
Just how I know I'm like way more Neanderthal. Like if I don't get my eyebrows done, they connect and they double in fucking height. Okay, and I'm hairy AF. I hate it so much, and my IQ is 55.
Their brains were
I'm
on
joking,
average,
by the way. I
slightly
don't think they
bigger
were
than
that
ours.
dumb.
They hunted large, dangerous animals at close range, which is why their skeletons show injury patterns similar to modern rodeo riders. They know how to control fire, made sophisticated tools, and there's growing evidence that they buried their dead with care. Neanderthals lived across Europe and Western Asia for more than 300,000 years. But around
More than us.
45,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began moving into the same regions. For a few
Yeah.
thousand years, both species lived side by side, and DNA evidence shows they even had children together. But living
Yep.
alongside Homo sapiens created new challenges for Neanderthals. Both species hunted many of the same animals and relied on the same land for survival. Homo sapiens lived in larger groups and had wider social networks, allowing them to share resources, knowledge, and support over greater distances. However, Neanderthals generally lived in smaller, more isolated groups, making it harder for them to share resources and recover from difficult times.
Even two different human species weren't that similar, so they can live together in the same fucking, I guess, society, if you can call this a society, what they had back then. So they divide themselves that much, and it's very obvious that in today's day and age we see that we divide ourselves a lot. Like, even when you see a city or a country that has a lot of different ethnicities and populations and religions, a lot of the times they don't always live in the same places together. Usually they are divided in different neighborhoods, different cities, or even in one city. There's different, like, there's a reason why before we had Chinatown, Italy town, Little Italy, and all of this in all of these U.S. cities. I mean, they still exist, but you know what I mean.
At the same time, the climate kept changing.
We always want to be closer to our communities, even if we are one of the ones who, accept different people and different cultures and want to be together and,
Cold periods and
experience
warmer
stuff.
periods constantly reshaped the environment,
Not all cultures are, blend together well.
making survival even more difficult. Neanderthal populations became smaller and more isolated, and their DNA shows very low genetic diversity, suggesting their numbers were already declining. By around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals disappeared from the fossil record. They weren't wiped out by a single event. Instead, a combination of competition, climate change, and shrinking populations gradually pushed them toward extinction. Now let's talk about the Denisovans. They were different from every other species on this list
This is what
because
I
we can
said.
barely see them. The entire discovery began with a single finger bone pulled from a cave in the Altai Mountains of Siberia.
Okay, well, I was wrong. Maybe they weren't the Denisovans weren't the ones in Papua New Guinea. I was wrong.
So small it could sit in the palm of your hand. But when scientists extracted DNA from it, the results didn't match any known human species. Not Neanderthals, not Homo sapiens, and not anything else scientists had seen before. It was something else entirely. A previously unknown branch of the human family that had been hiding in the genetic record all along. Since that discovery, only a handful of additional remains have turned up, which include some teeths, a piece of jawbone found high on the Tibetan plateau, and not much else. And yet their genetic shadow is enormous. Denisovan ancestry shows up in modern populations across parts of Asia and Oceania, with some Melanesian groups carrying as much as 6% Denisovan
Okay, I was right. Well, kinda, not fully, but
DNA.
yeah.
Tibetans inherited a Denisovan gene called EPAS, one that allows them to function at extreme altitudes where most people's bodies would start to fail. A species we can barely find in the ground is still shaping how living humans survive in thin air. But as a living population, the Denisovans faded out somewhere around 30,000 years ago. Their range may have been vast, but their numbers were likely thin, and thin populations rarely hold on when the world starts shifting underneath them. And then there's one of the strangest chapters in human history. In 2003, on the Indonesian island of Flores, researchers discovered the remains of a human species unlike anything seen before. They stood only about a meter tall and had brains roughly the size
Okay,
of a
these were the ones I was talking about, the short ones.
grapefruit.
And not on Papua New Guinea, but on some Indonesian island.
First, many scientists were skeptical. Some argued the bones belonged to modern humans with a disease or developmental disorder. But as more evidence was uncovered, it became clear that these remains belonged to a completely separate species, Homo floresiensis. This tiny human lived on Flores alongside Komodo dragons, giant storks, and dwarf elephants. Islands often drive
dwarf
evolution
elephants.
in unusual
Yep,
directions.
these are the ones I was talking about, not Denisovans.
When species are isolated for long periods, they can change dramatically.
Yep.
Large animals
Large animals become huge and small animals become... just imagine, this has made me think a lot. What if the Earth was as big as Jupiter? Jupiter is ginormous, if you didn't know. Does that mean that every species that we see, specifically humans right now, let's not fuck all other species, humans right now, right? Does that mean we would be much larger because there's a much bigger area? There's way more landscape for agriculture. If Jupiter had all of Earth's climate and continents and all of this, but it was just not quadrupled, way more in size. Does that mean that humans would be way bigger as well? Or would they be smaller because, well, I guess more a higher pull from the planet's core, I guess. You know, more. What do you fucking call it? I forgot. I forgot what
may
the
become
word.
smaller, while small animals can grow larger. Homo floresiensis may be one of the most
More
remarkable
gravity. That's what I wanted to say.
examples of this process in the entire human family. Their fossils date from about 100,000 to 60,000 years ago, and stone tools suggest they may have survived until around 50,000 years ago. What's interesting is that modern humans were arriving in the region at roughly the same time. We don't know exactly what happened, but on a small island, a species doesn't need a massive catastrophe to disappear. Sometimes, a small population facing new pressures simply runs out of time. So, why are we the only human species left?
Why?
The obvious answer is intelligence, but that falls apart quickly. Because Neanderthals were intelligent, Denisovans adapted to extreme environments. Homo erectus outlasted us many times over, and
Yep.
Homo floresiensis survived conditions that would terrify a modern person. What may have actually separated us was
But
something
we've gone to space, so yeah.
harder to measure: the way we built connections across distance. Homo sapiens didn't just live in groups, we built networks. Tools, techniques, and knowledge moved between communities in ways that don't seem to have happened for other species at the same speed or scale. When one group faced a crisis, the things they'd learned didn't die with them. That knowledge had already traveled. When the climate shifted and entire regions became unlivable, our species had the flexibility to reorganize because we weren't locked into any single place or any single strategy. But even that only explains part of it. Luck, geography, and being in the right place, with enough numbers at the right moment, all played a part too. We weren't destined
Of
to be
course.
the last one standing. We just happened to be. The other human
Probably.
species weren't early versions of us, and they weren't simply stepping stones on the way to become Homo sapiens. They were their own kinds of humans, each with a different way of surviving in the world. Homo erectus survived for nearly 2 million years and still disappeared. Neanderthals endured hundreds of thousands of years of Ice Age climates and still vanished. The Denisovans left behind almost no fossils at all, yet traces of their DNA still exist in people today.
Yeah.
For most of
Well, what can we learn from this? Adapt, network, grow a community. Don't try to divide people as much as because we are dividing ourselves so fucking much over politics and so many shit. And learn from previous generations. That's what I guess I've learned from this, and that's probably how we mostly survive. Plus, it was luck and being in the right place at the right time. And nobody can blame any human on Earth because, well, we, Homo sapiens, we conquered the whole world. Everybody died, probably partially because of us. So yeah, tell me what you guys think in the comments. Great video, Ink Explainer. Subscribe to him. Not that I'm a big channel that can, you know, promote him as much, but yeah, great video. Go subscribe to him. Tell me what you think in the comments, and have a nice day.